Good morning, students. Today, the topic which we are going to discuss is Blackboard skill and reinforcement skill. These are the skills of the micro teaching that are necessary for the teacher to learn, and these skills to be developed if you want to be an effective teacher. Now, learning objectives of today's topic are acknowledge the importance of skill of blackboard writing and its components. The students will be able to acknowledge that these are the importance of skill of blackboard writing and these are the different components of it. To identify the goals and objectives of skill of blackboard writing and its component, and these the students will able to identify the goals and objectives of a skill of a blackboard writing, and these are the goals and objectives of skills of blackboard writing, and these are its basic components. Analyze and understand the skill of blackboard writing and its component. They will able to analyze. And this is the skill of blackboard writing and understand the different components that are involved in the skill of blackboard writing. Students will able to understand, analyze and understand the reinforcement skill. They will able to understand and analyze this. This is the blackboard skill. Acknowledge the importance of reinforcement skill. They will able to acknowledge that that's why reinforcement skill is so important. Identify the types of reinforcement skills and they will able to find out that there are positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement. What is the importance of positive reinforcement and what is the importance of a negative reinforcement, and these are the learning objectives that we want to achieve after the completion of this topic. Now, introduction. Blackboard is the visual aid, means it's a aid which can be seen. That is most widely used in all sectors of education and training. And the blackboard is being most widely used in all sectors of education and training. Means it's the most important thing and without which we cannot imagine that the education and the training is going on. It is used as a powerful teaching aid for classroom instruction. Means Blackboard is being used as a most powerful teaching aid for delivering the classroom instructions in each and every level of education. Meaning that Blackboard is used at every level of education, whether we are talking about the elementary education or at the higher level of education. Blackboard is the most suitable tool for providing a holistic picture of the lesson. Means, with the help of the Blackboard, we can provide a holistic picture of the lesson to the students. A good Blackboard, clear visual presentations and helps the learner in understanding the concept being taught, and it helps the learner to understand the concept which the teacher is going to teach to the student. Blackboard can be suitably used for displaying notes. Means the teacher can use the blackboard for displaying different notes to the student, and diagram the teacher can draw a diagram of that and which help the students to understand the concept in a better way. During a lesson means during the duration of the lesson and for working through calculations or similar exercises in front of class. Or the teacher can use the blackboards to do some calculations or similar exercises related or somewhat like calculations or the mathematical to guide the students in front of a class. Thus, if the blackboard is used properly, if the teacher is using the blackboard in a proper manner, it adds variety to the lesson. It will bring efficiency in the lesson. If the lesson that will be delivered will be an effective one and draw the attention of the people, and it will be able to draw the attention of the people. Before making a lesson plan on Blackboard, Writing, we should know the meaning of each component of the skill. It means you are going to teach the students and you are using the blackboard. Before using the blackboard, you must know what are the different components that has to be used by the teacher to make the effective use of blackboard. So let's learn the meaning and how to use each component of the blackboard. Now, components of the skill of blackboard writing. 8 component of blackboard writing skills in micro teaching means in micro teaching we are talking about the 8 components of blackboard writing skill. The components of the skill of blackboard writing are legibility, size and alignment, highlighting the main points, utilization of the space, blackboard summary, correctness, position of the teacher, and contact with the pupil. Now, meaning and use of the components of blackboard writing. Now, what is the meaning of the components of the blackboard writing, and what are the use of the components of blackboard writing, and why the knowledge of the components of blackboard writing is very essential for a teacher. To use the components of a skill of blackboard writing in micro teaching as well as in your micro lesson plans. The lesson plans which has to be developed in a short period, or we can say uh, where the teacher teaches a short lesson in front of the students. The number of students are also from 5 to 10. The teach that it is best teaching methods to improve the skills. It not only working for the improvement of pre-service teachers, it is also working in improving the in-service teachers. You should understand the meaning of these components. You must understand the different components, the meaning of these components. The only you will able to use it appropriately in micro teaching. Now the first one is legibility. The handwriting of the teacher on the blackboard should be legible so that everyone can clearly understand what the teacher has written on the board so it can draw the attention of the learner so that every learner will be attracted or they will get the teacher will able to get the attention of the learners and encourages them to improve their own writing. And we should encourage them to improve their own handwriting if they think that the students are not able to understand what they are writing on the board. Illegible handwriting irritates the learner. Why? Because the students will not able to understand what the teacher has written on the board and results in maximum mistakes. And when they are copying from the board some notes or some diagram or some calculation, they will make maximum mistakes because they will not able to understand what the teacher has written on the board. There should be a clear distinction between every letter. Means there should be a clear difference or distinctions between every letter or that being written by the teacher on the board, as well as adequate space. Means there should be adequate space, enough space between two words. Should be maintained between individual letters and words. Size and alignment. While writing on the blackboard, while you are writing on the blackboard, the teacher should be conscious enough of the fact that the size of the letter written on the blackboard should be uniform. Means the size of the letter that has been written by the teacher on the blackboard should be uniform. There should be uniformity and large enough to be read, and it should not be too small so that this student sitting at the back of the class will not able to read it properly. So there should be a uniformity first thing, and it should be the alphabets should be large enough that it can be easily read by the students in the last row. The size of the capital letters should be larger than that of the small letters. Means uh, while you are writing on the board, the size of the capital letters should be larger than that of the smaller letters. And the handwriting should be as nearly vertical as possible without being divergent from a line. Highlight the main point. Now that is important. While you are writing on the board, you have to mention to the student that these are the important things, and they will able to understand that those things that the teacher will consider important, that will be highlighted by the teacher. The main points of words are written on the blackboard should be highlighted by underlining them mean when the teacher is giving some notes to the students, and if they think that these are the important points or these are the important things, they can just highlight it there. Colored chalk should be used suitably for the purpose of drawing the learner's attention to those main points that need to be highlighted to. Or the teacher can use a colored chalk if he thinks that these are the main points, and the teacher can write those main points on the board with the help of the colored chalk. And what will happen, that the use of the colored chalk will draw the learner's attention to those main points that is to be highlighted. However, too much use of color chalk should be avoided. And it's not that the teacher should use color chalk at every level or every place. The excessive use of color chalk should be avoided by the teacher. Utilizing the space. Now, how you are utilizing the whole space of the blackboard is very necessary training, and it is an important feature when we are discussing the efficiency of the teacher while using the blackboard. Utilization of the space matters a lot for efficient use of the blackboard. How you are utilizing the blackboard, how you are utilizing the space of the blackboard. For the proper utilization means if you want to use the blackboard in a proper manner, of the space on the blackboard, important words or statements should be written on it. The only important words or statements should be written on it. Overwriting the letters should be avoided, means the teacher should not overwrite the letters as it make the blackboard work untidy. If we are overwriting each and every word, then it's make the blackboard work untidy. It should be taken care of that only essential matters material should be retained. Only essential material should be retained on the blackboard. And unnecessary words should be rubbed off. And unnecessary things or unnecessary words that you have written on the board should be rubbed out. Only main and important points should be there on the blackboard. Blackboard summary. The teacher should take care much and attention to develop a blackboard summary at the end of the lesson. Now, much take care should be done by the teacher and attention to develop, and the teachers try to develop attention among the learners. A blackboard summary at the end of the lesson means a teacher has to develop a blackboard summary that can be used by the teacher at the end of the lesson. It's make teaching meaningful and interesting, means if a blackboard summary at the end of the lesson will be presented in front of the learners, then that Blackboard summary made the teaching meaningful and interesting for the learners. The Blackboard summary should be so brief that the learner can recollect the whole lesson at a glance. Means the Blackboard summary should not be too much large. It should be brief, it should be precise, to the main points or to the important points, that the learner can recollect the whole lesson, and through that blackboard summary the student will have the whole information about that lesson plan. It should include only the silently important points of the lesson. Correctness. The teacher should be careful about correct spelling, punctuation, grammars, etc. while constructing sentence on the blackboard. Now, why it is important? Because what the teacher will write on the board will be copied by the students. So, the teacher should be extra careful about the correct spelling. The spelling should be correctly written by the teacher when he is writing on the board. Punctuation, proper place of punctuation, grammar. Grammar should be correctly used by the teacher while constructing sentences on the blackboard. While writing on the blackboard, while the teacher is writing on the blackboard, inadequate English grammar or mistakes are done by the teacher to reduce the attentiveness of the learner in the class. Position of the teacher. Now, position of the teacher. What should be the position of the teacher when he is writing on the board? First thing is that the position of the teacher should be in such a manner that students can easily see from the board what the teacher is writing. First thing. Second thing, the teacher back should not be in front of the student. The teacher should stand at making a, an angle of 45 degrees so that the teacher keep also keep an eye on the students what they are doing while he is writing on the board. Now, position of the teacher at the time of writing on the blackboard matters a lot. Means it plays a very important role. The position of the teacher a lot for efficient use of the skill of blackboard writing during a lesson, and a position of letter efficient use of the skill of blackboard writing during a lesson plan. The teacher at the time of blackboard writing, the teacher when he is writing on the blackboard should stand on one side of the blackboard. He should stand at one side of the blackboard in order to make writing on the blackboard visible to the learner. Now, while he is sitting or writing, while he is writing on the board, he should stand on one side because then only the student will able to easily visible what is being written on the board. His position should never be in between the blackboard and the learner. Means his position should not be such that he comes in between the blackboard. If that happens, then the students will not able to see what the teacher has written on the board. Contact with the people. It's not that the teacher is so much busy in writing on the board, then what will happen? There will be indisciplinary activities in the class. The teacher will lose the contact with the people, what they are doing. Either they are writing or not. The teacher, at the time of writing on the blackboard, while he is writing on the blackboard, should maintain eye contact with his learner. He has to maintain eye contact with the learner. Then only they will be in discipline and they will think that the teacher is observing them, and if they will not do the work properly, they will get the punishment. This necessary for controlling interactions between students and students, maintaining discipline. For maintaining the discipline, the teacher has to maintain contact with the pupil, st- standing the attention of the learners, etc. Now, the next step which we are going to discuss is reinforcement. Now, what is reinforcement? The reinforcement theory was first introduced by Pavlov in 1900. Means the term reinforcement was introduced by the Pavlov in 1903. The presentation or removal of something immediately following a response which increases the likelihood that the responses will again occur. And that was the definition which was given by Alberto Troutman in 2003. The presentation or removal of something immediately means we are presenting something very immediately in front of the learner, or we will remove that thing following a response which increase the likelihood, and after that a response will be given and which increase the likelihood that the response will occur in the future. Reinforcement is strengthening or weakening the connection between stimulus and a response. When a student will get a reinforcement, then that will definitely increase the relationship, the connection between stimulus and the response. If the student will not get any type of reinforcement from the teacher, then it will definitely weaken the connection between stimulus and response. Now, for example, I asked one of the teacher by a student that just switch on the fan. Now, this is the stimulus that is motivating the students to switch on the fan. Now, what will be the response? That the student will go and switch on the fan. Now, I haven't give any reinforcement to the student. Now, the next time when I will give the student some instruction, a stimulus to perform a duty, might be he will not respond. So, what will happen? Or we what we can say that if reinforcement is not presented to the student, then a connection between stimulus and response weakens. A student is an individual, it's an individuality, and may be different in his her perception of the reinforcement, and there is a difference in the way they are perceiving the reinforcement. So different reinforcement may be needed for different students. So there should be a variation in the reinforcement by the teacher and may be needed for different students. Means different reinforcement strategies should be planned by the teacher uh, th- so that he can give reinforcement to the different students in a different manner. For example, the teacher can give sometimes a visual reinforcement to the students. They can present them with a chocolate, they can present them with a toffee, and it can be a verbal also. A verbal in the form the teacher will say in the class that you have performed very well. It can be a non-verbal also, where the teacher will go to the student and just tap his back, and that type of reinforcement will definitely improve the performances of the learner. So different reinforcement, different type of reinforcement, it's whether it is positive or negative, verbal or non-verbal, may be needed for different students. It's not that the teacher should motivate or reinforce only some students. No, the teacher, it's a teacher duty to reinforce all the students. A reinforcement is highly effective only if it is used at the right time. Means that strategy will be called effective only when the teacher will reinforce the students at the right time. For example, I asked a student, "What's your name?" and he responded his name. And after that, I reinforced him, "Very good, excellent answer." And when I asked when India got independence, now I will get the answer, but I did not reinforce the student. Now, what will happen? that it will not make my teaching learning process effective. So, a reinforcement is highly effective. The impact of that will be highly effective when it is used at the right time. When to give the reinforcement, what type of reinforcement should be given by the teacher at that time, and the right place, and it should also be at the right place. Too much repetitive reinforcement may result in the loss of its effectiveness as the motive. Means too much repetitive reinforcement. Now, what is repetitive reinforcement? That the teacher is using or giving the same type of reinforcement to the students again and again. The same reinforcement the teacher is giving to the student. Now, the teacher has asked the students to write an essay on a subject. Then again, the reinforcement which was given by the teacher is good. Again, the teacher has given a task to the student, again the same reinforcement. Sometimes repetitive reinforcement may result the students of its effectiveness as the motivator. Now, reinforcement is strengthening the connection between a stimulus and a response. Means we are able to strengthen the connection between a stimulus and response if the teacher uses the reinforcement at a particular time and a particular period. The skill of reinforcement can increase the student's involvement in learning in a number of ways. The skill of reinforcement can increase the students' involvement in learning in a number of ways. If the teacher will give the reinforcement to the students, those who have given the correct answer to the question, then what will happen? The teacher will give the reinforcement to the learner who has given the correct answer. Means the skill of reinforcement can increase the students' involvement. And when the teacher has given some feedback to the students will be motivated to involve in the learning process, and it will definitely improve their efficiency. The skill is used when the teacher reinforces correct responses. When the teacher reinforces the learner with correct responses. For example, I have given a simple task to the learner, and the reinforcement which I am using is well done, excellent students' performance. No, it should be according to the reinforcement by the teacher. Correct responses with a smile. Give a smile to the students, saying that uh, it's a correct response that has been given to you. It's a correct answer that one was asked from you. When the teacher praises a good response or encourage a slow learner, and when the teacher is praising any good idea of a student, then that will encourage the students to be involved in the teaching learning process. First thing. Second thing is that they also want some reinforcement from the teacher. So it encourages a slow learner students also to be involved in the teaching process. Now, why use reinforcement? Why reinforcement has to be used by the teacher to increase student attention with the use of reinforcement? The teacher will able to increase student attention in that specific task. To motivate students, it will definitely motivate the students, and to maintain motivational to respond to the stimuluses to the questions that the teacher has given, to facilitate the student behavior, how that uh, is facilitating the student's behavior, to control and modify restrictive students' behavior. Through reinforcement, we can control the destructive students' behavior, the ill behavior of the students. To help the students to develop self-management learning, to enable students to evaluate their own learning, how much they have learned, to recognize students' achievement and efforts. Now we have to recognize that these are the students' achievement and efforts. Now, components of the skill of reinforcement. Positive verbal reinforcement, the teacher can give positive verbal reinforcement to the learner. Extra verbal reinforcement. Non-verbal cues can be given by the teacher. Writing pupil answer to on blackboard, this can be done. Proximity reinforcement, contact reinforcement, token reinforcement, negative verbal reinforcement, negative non-verbal reinforcement, and no reinforcement. Now, explanation of each component of the skill of reinforcement. Positive verbal reinforcement means the teacher will give the students reinforcement in a positive way. Here, a teacher gives positive reinforcement through various verbal with words expressions. The teacher can use the various verbal positive expressions to give the students the positive feedback. The teacher accepts the feeling of the pupil by saying, "Well, I understand what you have said. Well done." It's again a positive feedback. Very good, right, yes, correct, fine, excellent, splendid, etc. These are the positive verbal reinforcement that can be used by the teacher. Sometimes simply say, "I like what you say doing." Or sometimes you can easily say to the learner that "I like what you are saying or doing." Continue, go ahead with what you are saying, carry on, etc. Extra verbal cues. Sometimes the teacher can be used extra verbal cues or expressions such as etc. Non-verbal cues. The teacher can use certain non-verbal cues like nodding of head. Yes, you have given the correct answer. Smiling by giving a positive reinforcement. Moving towards the responding people. Keeping eyes on the people. Giving ear to the people. Indicating that attention is being paid to the people. Words or any other non-verbal action indicates pleasure at the pupil responses. Writing pupil answer on the blackboard. Teacher should write the answers on the blackboard which the student responded by the pupil. Means the teacher can write the answers on the blackboard if the student has given the correct answer to that particular question. The teacher should write only that answer which is specific one and have relevance with the content. The teacher don't have to write each and every answer on the board. It should write only that answer which is specific one and have relevancy with the content, relevant to the content. Proximity reinforcement. Proximity reinforcement refers to the teacher's movement towards the responding student. If a student has given the correct answer, the teacher will go towards the that particular person. These will motivate the students to answer the questions, and this action of the teacher will be noticed by other students, and they will try to give the answer to those questions. Contact reinforcement. The teacher should motivate the student by giving contact reinforcement to the learners. Token reinforcement. Token reinforcement involve awarding points or tokens for appropriate behavior. The teacher can do this exercise that the teacher will award students some points or they can give some tokens to the students for the appropriate behavior which they have done in the classroom. The rewards have little value in themselves but can be exchanged for something of value. Negative verbal reinforcement. Different type of negative verbal reinforcement can also be used by the teacher. The teacher should always avoid painful, threatening, or punishing verbal expressions towards people. Means they should not use or avoid using these words or expressions by the teacher uh, towards the pupil. This type of reinforces affects learning negatively, and this type of using non-verbal reinforcement affects the learning and negatively of the learner and decrease the motivation of the people to perform. Teachers should avoid discouraging expressions such as "I don't like what you are doing." The teacher should be discouraged using those sentences or those feedbacks to the students. Do something else. You can ask the students to do something else. Nonsense, you are not good, no work, incorrect, stop it, and that's not accepted. These can be the different non-verbal reinforcement that the teacher can give to the learner. Negative non-verbal reinforcement. This is brought out using such behavior as throwing, moving away from the responding people, keeping eye on the people with discouraged looks, hard and disapproving stuff, not look at the responding people, tapping food impatiently and walking around, etc. Teachers should be conscious of such behavior and avoid them as far as possible if she wants to use the skill of reinforcement. Now the next one is no reinforcement means the teacher is neither giving the positive reinforcement nor the negative reinforcement to the learner. No reinforcement means when the teacher shows neither a positive reinforcement nor a negative reinforcement towards students' opinion, towards the opinion, information, or respondent. Types of reinforcement: positive and negative. Positive reinforcement provide a pleasant experience or a feeling of satisfaction which contributes towards purposes of behavior. Means the positive reinforcement provide pleasant experiences. This give the students a pleasant experience or feeling of satisfaction. They will be satisfied that they have given a particular task which was given by the teacher. They have completed them, which contributes towards strengthening of described responses of behavior. Negative reinforcement results in unpleasant experiences. Other words, the negative reinforcement that was given by the teacher will give unpleasant experiences to the learner, which help in weakening the occurrence of undesirable responses or behavior. And that negative reinforcement that will be used by the teacher will definitely help in weakening the occurrences of undesirable responses or behavior that are not considered desirable by the learner. Now, importance of reinforcement in teaching increases learning and making it permanent. Means if the teacher wants to know that the student will never forget this topic, then they should make it's a permanent to teach the students or to make them learn the new concept, motivate the students and they take interest in the learning, motivate the students so that they can take interest in the learning, make them active. We should give involve them actively, make them attentive on the map modes, and they should be uh, attract an alternative of what are the main points are. Now, components of reinforcement skill: positive verbal reinforcement. The words or can use good, excellent, keep it up. Positive non-verbal reinforcement. Gestures means you smile, nodding the head, proximity, contact, engage the students to clap, writing subjects responses on BP. Negative verbal reinforcement, no, wrong, stop it are the negative reinforcement. Non-verbal point. Uh, Negative non-verbal reinforcement can be given by the teacher. Beating, raising the eyebrows, You can just breathe the students or just raise the eyebrows, and that also make the student understand that they are not allowed in the school premises if they will do the negative activities. Beating, raising the eyebrows, extra verbal reinforcement, or now use wide ranges of reinforcement. You have to use a various number of reinforcers. Don't use similar reinforcers for different responses. That you don't have to use good every time you want to reinforce the learner. Why easy answer good, difficult answer good, partially correct answer good. Try to involve all people and encourage their participation. You have to encourage or involve all people in the teaching learning process, and that will don't neglect shy and passive people. Use reinforcing words. You can give reinforcing words can be used. Our statement clearly. Don't use reinforcement for each and every responses to the people. It leads situation, artificial, political points to be pondered. Now, today we have discussed the concept of blackboard skill, reinforcement skill, and both these skills are very important, and the knowledge or the content knowledge is very important if we want to make the students understand the concept of that. Blackboard skill is important because if it's not being used properly in a proper order, then the teacher will have the difficulty of various difficulties for making the students learn that concept. Now let us discuss some MCQs. As MCQs are the best way to judge how much you have learned a particular concept. Dash is a visual aid that is most likely used in all sectors of education. Now, that is an important thing that has been used widely in all sectors of education. A. Blackboard, B. Introduction, C. Reinforcement, or it's D. Stimulus variation. Now, what will be the correct answer? And the correct answer will be option A, that is Blackboard. It is used as a powerful teaching aid for classroom instructions in each and every level of. Now, which is that powerful teaching aid that is used for classroom instructions for giving the classroom instruction in each and every level of A. Education, B. Learning, C. Games, or S. D. Plays. Now, these are the options students, and now you have to select the correct one on the basis of the given choice, and the correct answer is option A, that is education. Dash is the most suitable tool for providing a holistic picture of the lesson. The whole picture of the lesson can be used by that tool. Now the options are A. Blackboard, B. Introduction, C. Reinforcement, or it's D. Stimulus variation. Now what will be the correct answer? And the correct answer will be option A, that is Blackboard. Now the fourth one, Dash can be suitably used for displaying notes that can be used by the teacher for displaying the notes, and diagrams, and diagrams will be made by the teacher during a lesson. Now the options are A. Blackboard, B. Illustration, C. Reinforcement, or it's D. Stimulus variation. So these are the options students. Now you have to find out the correct one on the basis of the given choices, and the correct answer is option A, that is Blackboard is suitably used for displaying notes and diagrams by the teacher during a lesson. The main points of words are written on the blackboard should be dash by underlining them. Means if the teacher has written something on the board, then the teacher has to do what when. he has written some important points or words on the board. The options are A. Highlighted. The teacher has to highlight that. Course. The teacher has to course that. Play. The teacher has to play with that. Or drama. The teacher has to show the drama to the students. Now, these are the options, and now you have to select the correct one. And the correct answer will be A. Highlighted means when the teacher has written something on the board, he must underline the highlighted words that he or she is considered as an important one. First thing. Second thing is that if the teacher wants to make the students understand that this is the most important concept of that lesson, then the teacher can also use a colored chalk for it. Now, the sixth one, the term of reinforcement was first introduced by Pavlov in which year the Pavlov has noted or given or introduced the term reinforcement. Options are A 1903, B 1904, C 1905, and HD 1906. So the correct answer is option A, that is 1903 when this term was introduced by the Pavlov. Now, reinforcement is regarding as strengthening or weakening the connection between dash and a student response. Now, if we want to strengthen the response, the connection between two things has to be started. If we want to weaken that reinforcement, the connection between dash and its responsive will also be weakened. Now the options are A. Stimulus, B. Teaching, C. Learning, or it's D. Gain. Now these are the options, and now you have to select the correct one on the basis of the given choices. And the correct one is stimulus. So strengthening or weakening of the connections between a stimulus and a response. If a stimulus and a response connection has been made, then it was being awarded by reinforcement, then it will definitely be strengthened. The Blackboard summary should be so brief that the dash can recollect the whole lesson at a glance. The Blackboard summary that will be written by the teacher, it should be brief and that so that the dash can recollect lesson at a glance, that he will look at the uh, blackboard summary and he will able to find out that this has to be done in that particular area or field. Should be so brief can collect the whole lesson at a glance. Now the options are A. Learners, B. Teachers, C. Schools, or it's D. Activity. Now what will be the correct answer? And the correct answer will be Blackboard summary should be so brief that the learners can recollect the whole lessons at a glance. Now, the skill of Dash can increase the students' involvement in learning in a number of ways. Now, which skill is increased or has increased the students' involvement in learning in a number of ways? Now the options are A. It's a reinforcement skill that increases the students' involvement in learning. Blackboard, whether it's a blackboard that increases the students' involvement in learning. C. Introduction, whether it's an introduction which is helping that. Stimulus variation, whether it's stimulus variation that is increasing the students' involvement in learning in a number of ways, or stimulus variation. Now, these are the options A, B, C, D. Now, you have to select the correct one on the basis of the given choices, and the correct one will be option A, that is reinforcement, the skill of presenting. Uh, when you want your students to be involved in the teaching learning process, then you must give the students the reinforcement. Now, the 10th one, reinforcement enable students to evaluate their own dash. What is the thing that is helping the learners to evaluate their dash? The options are A learning, whether they will be able to evaluate their own learning, teaching, whether it's the teaching, C exercises, or it's D class, and like that. And these are the options, and now you have to select the correct answer on the basis of the given choices, and the correct answer will be option A, that is learning. Thank you, students. With this particular narration, you have understood the concept of blackboard skill and the reinforcement skill. Firstly, we have discussed the blackboard skill, and we are saying that if the teacher wants to teach the students effectively, and if he want that his teaching should be considered as an effective one, then he or she has to should have the full knowledge of how to use the blackboard, and every knowledge should be learned by him. Only then he will able to show that this is the concept that he knows very well. The next thing is that if the teacher uses the blackboard, then he should be written the blackboard the word should be written in such a manner that every student who is sitting at the back of the class also understand what has been written by the teacher. And a punctuation mark, grammar mistake has not to be done on the blackboard, because then it will have what will happen. It will happen that the students will note it down from those things in the copy only. Then they will have the difficulty for that. uh, the next thing is that if the teacher knows the techniques or the ideas of how to use maximum utilization of what can be made, then we will say that it can only be done when the teacher teaches the students with that. Next, the thing that we have discussed today is the reinforcement skill. Now, reinforcement skill was developed by Pavlov in 1903, and he is saying that uh, it is very important to reinforce the student for developing their interest, their motivation in that particular field, and that's why they are saying that the reinforcement plays a very important role in the efficient teaching learning process. Secondly, next thing is that it should can be a positive reinforcement, it can be a negative reinforcement. Now, when the teacher has trying to give it's a negative reinforcement, then the teacher must think that positive reinforcement will definitely affect their learning. They will motivated, they're curious to know each and everything. And if they have been considered as a negative reinforcement, then the teacher has to make some provisions so that their learning has to be informed. Positive and negative reinforcement both has its own implication, both has its own importance also. Now, thank you, students, with this particular narration. You have understood all these concepts. So, in the next class, we will discuss about the other skills that knowledge of that, the components knowledge of that is very essential for the teacher to learn. Thank you, students. Thank you so much.